in Zurich, and we are very honored and pleased to have Ziba Ardalan, the founder of the great Parasol unit in London, here today to speak about LongueDurée.
Me, basically, it is the long term. The idea and the concept of long term. Basically, it is interesting, very interesting topic. Fernand Baudrel wrote very beautifully about it, and but yet it is, for me, it's a Western idea. And as I was reading the wonderful book you kindly sent me in summer, I realized it belongs to a certain time. And maybe in our time, that the borders have vanished, maybe it's a good idea to consider that actually include other places in it. And I think it's probably a very wonderful start, actually, for you, your program, because I believe next to this, you might continue on broaden the whole thing and opening up to the world. I have been for a very long time interested in the concept of West. What does it mean, really? And reading a book by the historian William McNeill, he was explaining that, in a way, the idea of West created at the time that the Persian Empire wanted to conquer Greece, which is 2,500 years ago. And of course, then we know that was a kind of ancient Greek idea. What was to the right of Greece was east, what was to the left of Greece or Athens was west, and then later on it continued in Constantinople idea, and it just went, and finally it became the past 500 years the concept of Western Europe. So to me, it is a remarkably interesting topic, but I also believe that is how the concept of European democracy was based on it. And I really am very interested in the topic, but don't forget, I'm Persian. And in whatever I did in life, I also studied different things, science and art. And so I like always to open up to the world.
About how come you had this idea living in London to build up Parasol, or even to have the idea of founding Parasol?
The idea of having one day my own exhibition space, or say Kunsthalle, it really grew from the time I was science student. I was in Geneva, and I used to go to Bern, to Basel, to different places and look at art. And I always loved the idea that in fact, it's so simple. It's very economical. There were 4 people usually running a Kunsthalle. Today, it won't be possible because there are so many other issues. There is basically the idea of having social media, how the artists have developed their work. But in those days, it was possible, and I thought it was so interesting, so economical to do it. But then, of course, I was science student, and I later on I left science and to study art.
Sorry,
but this,
what science? You have to explain. I know you have a Ph.D. in science, but what was it?
It was physical chemistry, which basically was a lot about quantum mechanics, and it opened up my eyes to the world. Also, I think when you study science, sometimes the whole idea of science is so complicated, it's so demanding and challenging that you become modest. because you feel at times that actually you are dumb. Sorry for the word. And I think that is great. That is great because it makes you modest in life, and you don't have always to prove yourself. And I think a bit of modesty is a good thing to have. And over the past year, we have seen how COVID, for example, has made us more modest. That is something very important. And then, of course, the idea of Kunsthalle was inspiration. But as we know, all of us, we are basically who we are. We have a collective experience, we have individual experience, and we have our life. We have been somehow stamped by it, and we create things which are different. I always thought of opening the program, and there was not really one direction. I kind of opened it to men, women artists, and artists from different countries. So this was the whole idea, to have a forum which is very open.
Right. And maybe also when you speak about modesty and humbleness and the recognition of it, to feel not so much ego-ridden. It makes sense. You didn't amass the collection to be exhibited, but a Kunsthalle, which was not existing in London, you opened at the Wharf Road.
It was an honor to be able to do that at that time. It was a golden age, really, you know, when the Tate Modern opened in 2000 and the Frieze Art Fair 2003, and I opened Parasol a year later in 2004. I think I was just lucky to be at the right time and doing the probably right thing in the art world. Yes, and as you say, basically now we have changed the structure of Parasol, and that space in London no longer exists. And in a way, if there was a collection, the collection would have existed. And so doing something like a Kunsthalle, it frees you. At the same time, it is not an ego thing. Exactly. It just, you know, it was a concept. It lived for a while, and now it's another chapter.
Exactly. And as I know that you have become nomadic, in the sense of exhibition.
That's right.
So you had this wonderful exhibition in Venice, now you have to help me, Palazzo of the...
That was the Music Conservatory.
Yes.
And the exhibition was titled The Spark Is You. And it was looking at the work of a group of Persian artists living different places in the world from the point of view, from the lens of poetry. And because I realized that younger people, younger than definitely 40, who have been born after the revolution, basically, Islamic revolution in Iran, they had lost contact with the country, and they didn't know who we were. And there was some strange expression I heard from people about Iran. And although I was not very connected to Iran, because I have left the country many, many years ago, I decided I really have to show that we have this incredible tradition of poetry, which is like classical music for you in Europe, for example. And we have to work with it. We have to show where we are, our identity.
Mm-hmm. How wonderful. And now you plan again a new exhibition. Is it related to biennial?
Well, it will be at the same time. We have not decided yet on the venue, but it will be a group of international artists, and it will be mainly on the theme of entropy. Entropy, which is all over the world now. Entropy in every field. Entropy, we know this is the second law of thermodynamics. And entropy is basically an energy that is not useful, and because it's not useful, it cannot do useful work, and it turn into something which is nuisance almost. Entropy also increases with time, with temperature, with information. And look at that, we are in the information society.